Hi there, welcome to live stream Yoga with Louise, tips and cues to keep you safe and strong on the mat. Today's yoga class is very chilled, affording you the opportunity to unwind after a hectic week. If you find that you've been suffering from insomnia, maybe your sleep patterns have been a little bit irregular because you're too stressed out, then this class is going to be particularly beneficial for you. As always, play where you're comfortable, modify where you need to, and feel comfortable to ease your way into child pose at any time should you need it. You ready to play? Let's hit the mat. We're going to begin off today's class lying on the back with a little bit of breath work. I'd like you to ease your way down and then pick your poison, either easing your way into a bridge-like setup with your knees bent and the soles of your feet connected to the mat, or you can ease your way into a supine butterfly position with the soles of your feet together, knees softly splayed out. You could even prop a block underneath each thigh for a little bit of support. Pick your poison, and then I'd like you to place your hands on your ribs and interlace your fingers so that they almost look like the teeth of a zip. Close your eyes, take your focus in, and on a big inhale, I'd like you to expand your ribs laterally so that the fingertips start moving away from each other, almost as if those teeth were opening up to the side of the room. And then on a long exhale, I'd like you to collapse the ribs so that the fingertips start drawing back towards the midline of the body. Keep your eyes closed and your inhalations and your exhalations nice and big. Let's keep our breathing pattern at a 1-to-1 inhalation to exhalation ratio. So if you're taking a nice big inhale, let's say for 5 counts, then I'd like you to exhale for 5. If you're inhaling for 6, then exhale for 6. Regulate your breathing, making it long and even. But at no stage should you be straining on the inhale or the exhale. As you get into the steady rhythm of breathing, think of making your shoulder blades heavy into the mat. Think of making the back of your rib cage heavy into the mat. And start making your belly button really heavy as if it was weighted into the mat and wanted to reach all the way from the front of your belly to tap your spine at the back. Keep your jaw and your chin line soft and relaxed. Maybe playing with a little bit of an ujjayi breath, inhaling and exhaling through the nose. And as you exhale, almost softly think of constricting the larynx so that you make an almost ocean wave type breath. Keep playing with that long inhale and exhale pattern, keeping your body totally soft and relaxed. Start taking your focus inward, and for the next 45 minutes or so, keep yourself totally focused on what's happening on the inside of your body. Tuning in to those little tension spots and trying to iron them out. When you're ready, softly flutter open the eyes. Keep the eyes soft and unfocused and begin extending the arms and the legs overhead on the mat, taking a soft little stretch here with your spine in neutral, extending through the fingertips and the toes as if you wanted to tap the wall in front of you and behind you. Then gently invert the hands so that the back of the palms are looking in towards the center line. Float the two hands towards the center line and clip the two palms in each other, pushing into an active prayer as you brace and kick into your heels, taking a little stretch here. Then soften through the feet and the hands and change the clip of your hands, leading with the opposite hand in front, maybe even fisting the hands this time if you like. Brace into your heels, push into the palms and take a little stretch here. Then soften through the feet, unclip the hands and swim them alongside the body so that the palms are facing down into the mat. Belly button is nice and heavy into the mat, and float your legs into a soft little Pilates V with your heels together, inner thighs rotated out, and the big toes looking to the side of the room. Keep a neutral spine position for this exercise, so don't try to imprint your back into the mat. Focus on your right leg. Draw the right knee out to the side of the room and then in towards the midline, and keep tracing a circular pattern, externally rotating through the hips, but don't totally disengage the right foot from the mat. Keep lightly caressing the mat with your foot at all times. Let's do one more in this direction and then change legs. Taking the left knee out to the side of the room and then drawing it back towards the midline. Make sure that your long and lengthened supported leg is in the turnout position on the mat, inner thighs softly rotated up. One more in this direction, then come back to side one and bring the knee in first before opening to the side, essentially just tracing that pattern in the opposite direction to internally rotate through the hip joint. Keep your spine in neutral, but your belly button nice and heavy. One more in this direction, then we'll take it to the left. The left knee coming in first before gently opening out to the side of the room. Keeping your breathing soft and relaxed, and try to lengthen your breath cycle. Then float both feet and knees off the mat, drawing the knees in towards the center line and softly extending your legs at about a 75-degree angle as you almost think of swimming like a little frog through the water, drawing the knees softly out before bringing them together along the midline and then softly extending through the toes as if you wanted to tap the wall in front of you. Last one. Softly hug the knees into the chest, maybe thinking knee to nose as you gently come up, and gently cradle rock from side to side. Place your head back on the mat and drop the soles of the feet to the mat as if you were coming back into a bridge line, but this time take your stance a little bit wider with your feet maybe just inside the outer edges of your mat. Open up your hands into a soft T-frame on the mat. Take a big breath in and flop your knees to the right while looking over your left shoulder. Inhale to come back to center. Drop both knees to the left as you look to the right. You're going to keep playing with that movement dynamically, inhaling to transition, exhaling to hold. Maybe inhaling in for, let's say, 6 counts, and then giving me a long exhale for 12 as you hold that soft twist through the spine. Looking for any nodules of tension in the lower back and maybe even the shoulder area. And maybe electing to use that little ujjayi inhalation and exhalation one more time. Let's do one more drop to each side. your knees back to your start position. Bring them up to 90, placing your hands palms down on the knees, and trace two big circular patterns with the knees away from each other, just relaxing your whole spinal column and your lower back muscles into the mat. Then see if you can brace your hands behind your thighs, either just holding with the palms on your thighs, or maybe interlacing your hands and making a little bracket behind your thighs. Hug your thighs in towards your chest, allowing your tailbone to peel up off the mat, and then ease up and allow your tailbone to rock back and connect to the mat. You're going to play with that movement dynamically. Every time you hug the thighs into your chest, think of compressing and squeezing all of the stale air out of your lungs before you release that squeeze and take a beautiful new breath in. So a little play on Pavanmuktasana, a nice way to just purge the body of the stale air and take some new breath in. Let's do one more. And then we'll find a grasp behind the thighs and we'll rock up into a seated position, floating or sweeping the legs underneath you to ease your way into child pose towards the back end of your mat. Keep your feet soft and relaxed in parallel as you come into child pose. So as you sit back, you're going to feel a little bit of a squeeze or compression in the lower belly area. Arms are long and lengthened in front of you. Just sit the weight of your bum bones back and almost take a nice little stretch here, pushing back through your palms. Then ease your way into a 4-point kneel, but as you come into the 4-point kneel, round out your back in a little cat stretch, bump the weight forward over your wrists, and then modify chaturanga down by bending your elbows, hugging them in towards the ribs and making the way onto your belly. Drop your forehead to the mat, come up into a little baby cobra line by finding a little marble underneath your nose, roll it away, peel up through the ribs, stopping when your bottom rib just wants to disengage, and then giving me a little shrug and a release into the shoulders. Just keep it soft and undulating, almost a little serpentine-like movement. And then push up into a kneeling up dog, strong through the shoulders and the lower belly. Then see if you can float your kneecaps up off the floor, resting on your palms and the bridges of your feet. Then keeping the weight on the tops of your toes. See if you can pike the bum up to the ceiling, stretching those little tension spots on the top of your toes before softening through the bridges of your feet, your shins and your knees, and pushing back into your original start position in child. We're going to run through that flow sequence with soft fluidity. Take a little push back in your relaxed child. Then with a flowing light motion, come through 4-point kneeling, rounding out in cat, bumping the weight of your hips forward, pausing here before bending through the elbows, coming down with control onto the belly, nodding your forehead to the mat. Peeling up into a little cobra line. And then maybe this time, shrugging your shoulders in the opposite direction, almost dropping one shoulder away from the other, getting rid of all those nodules of tension along the shoulder girdle. Drop back down onto the forehead. Push off the palms, strong through the shoulders and the belly as you find a kneeling up dog. Then float your kneecaps up off the floor, starting to stretch the tops of your feet. Pike your bum up to the ceiling, modifying your up dog before softly draping the shins and the knees to the floor and pushing back into child. Creep your hands back, push your bum bones back, try to get your bum to touch your heels. Come through your 4-point kneel, rounding out in cat, bumping your hips softly forward, bending through the elbows, coming down with control to tuck your forehead underneath. Then peel back up into your little cobra line, bottom rib maybe just off the mat. And take a little shrug and a release through the shoulders. Just keep it soft and spontaneous. Reconnect your forehead to the mat. Push strongly through the palms, brace through the core, come up into a kneeling up dog. Float your kneecaps off the floor, take a little stretch here. Pike your bum up to the ceiling. Iron out those little tension spots at the top of your toes. Then softly drape the shins and the knees back to the floor as you push back into child pose. Round out in cat as you come through 4-point kneeling. This time, as you bump the weight forward to come down onto the belly, as soon as you feel your belly connecting to the mat, slide your forearms out in front of you and come into Sphinx pose. Check that your elbows are stacking underneath your armpits and begin for me by almost collapsing through the collarbones as if you wanted to touch your belly button and your ribs to the mat. Then find your Sphinx line by pushing off the palms and the forearms and lifting your rib cage up off the mat, lengthening through the spine and keeping your gaze softly down just between your two thumb nails that are in front of you on the mat. Try not to collapse, keep pushing the mat away and keep that nice high frame, trying to extend as much as you can through the spinal line. Stay or play. To play, bend your right knee, point the toes up to the ceiling, maybe looking softly off to the wall in front of you. Then float the right leg down and bend the left knee, pointing the toe up to the ceiling. Keep pushing softly off the forearms and keep your nice high rib cage. Float both legs down. And then on an inhale, think of bending both knees, arcing through the spine and maybe peeking up towards the ceiling, but don't collapse through the collarbones. So push off the forearms, drop your shoulders away from your ears as you arc slightly through the spine. Then bring the chin softly into neutral, drape the legs long and lengthened on the mat behind you. Float your arms out, stacking your forearms one in front of the other, and rest your forehead on the back of your hands. Bending both knees so that the feet are looking up to the ceiling, just gently sway your feet side to side and relax any tension that you might be feeling in the lower back area. From here, we're going to set up a little locust line. Drape your feet long and lengthened on the mat behind you and swim the arms alongside the body, back of the hands connected to the mat, with your forehead and your nose lightly connected to the mat. We'll break down locust and then we'll play with it dynamically. For round one, keep your head and your hands on the mat and focus on your legs. Softly lift, hold, and hover your legs off the mat by drawing up from the kneecaps along the quads, the hamstrings, and into the glutes. Think of the legs coming up softly and giving me a long line from the hip bone to the toes if you were trying to tap the wall behind you. To float the legs down, think of softening from your hip bones down towards your kneecaps to float the legs, whisper softly to the mat, not a sound as the legs reconnect. For the next round, keep your feet and your hands on the mat and focus on your head. Pretend that you've got a little marble underneath your nose. Start rolling the marble away from you to the front of the mat and start peeling up really slowly through the ribs. One rib at a time, stopping just before your bottom rib disengages from the mat and just make your shoulder blades heavy, dropping them away from your ears. Feel your lower belly and your hip bones gently digging into the mat. Whisper softly, come back down to the mat, reconnecting one rib at a time. Don't rush your descent. And retuck that marble underneath your nose. As you retuck, try to iron out that little tension spot at the nape of your neck. For round three, keep your head and your feet on the mat and focus on your hands and your arms. Float the arms to hovering just off the mat, and then reach through your fingertips as if you had a little piece of string attached to them and the string was pulling the fingertips away from your body line, trying to allow them to tap the edge of your mat. Feel that little tug into the shoulder area. Keep your neckline long and lengthened, soft and relaxed. Whisper softly with not a sound, reconnect the back of your hands to the mat. Take a recovery breath or two, and then come into the full expression by simultaneously executing all three movements and holding the frame. Find a little marble underneath your nose, start rolling it away to the front of the mat, float your arms and your legs off the mat, and hold that long, beautiful, graceful line. Thinking of tapping the wall in front of you with your crown and reaching back through your toes and your fingertips to tap the wall behind you. Stay here or swim dynamically by arcing or swimming the hands overhead and then behind you in big sweeping motions, almost thinking of squeezing the two shoulder blades together as you extend the arms behind you, almost as if you were propelling yourself forward through a body of water, trying to keep the legs floating behind you or connecting them to the mat if you find that this loads your lower back too much. Give me 2 more sweeps. You're going to end with the arms long and lengthened in front of you. Float back down to the mat. Bend your elbows. Stack your forearms, resting your forehead on the back of your hands. Bend your knees, allowing the feet to look up towards the ceiling. And then just gently sway the feet side to side, relaxing any tension that you might be feeling in the lower back area. Then drape your feet long and lengthened on the mat behind you. We're going to come up into a little swan line. You're going to keep your arms bent, but tuck the elbows in towards the center line, almost replicating your cobra, but you're going to draw your hands back quite a lot so that they're towards the back end of your rib cage. So let's say between the bottom of your rib cage and below your breast line. Keep squeezing the elbows in towards the midline of the body the whole time that we're playing in swan. Connect your forehead softly to the mat. You're going to give me a controlled ascent and a controlled descent. So don't rush the movement. Keep squeezing the elbows in and control. Coming up as high as you can. You're going to find that little marble underneath your nose. Start rolling the marble away from you and peel up, stopping with the bottom 3 ribs heavy into the mat, dropping the shoulders away from your ears and trying to lengthen through the mid-back. Then push up a little bit higher, resting on your belly button. Keep the elbows tucked in. Push up higher, resting on the 2 hip bones. Higher still, resting on the pubic bone. Higher still, resting on the tops of your thighs. Higher still, coming into full extension through the arms, resting on your kneecaps with the heels of your palms stacking underneath your armpit. Pause here, trying to give me as much length as you can through the spine. Then come down with the same amount of control. Softly bending through the elbows, reconnecting just the top of your thighs. Loading through the arms. Then connect your pubic bone, your 2 hip bones, your belly button, the bottom 3 ribs. Pause. The rest of your rib cage follows, slow and controlled to retuck that marble underneath your nose and take a couple of recovery breaths. We're going to come back up with fluidity. Roll that marble away. Stop with your bottom 3 ribs heavy. Peel up onto the belly button. Pause. Peel up onto the hip bones. Pause. Peel up onto the pubic bone. Pause. Peel up onto the tops of your thighs. Come into full extension, resting softly on the kneecaps and the heels of your hands. Come down with control. Connect the top of your thighs, your pubic bone, your 2 hip bones, your belly button, the bottom 3 ribs, the rest of your rib cage, Either rinse and repeat or start flowing through dynamically in a little rocking motion, pushing up all the way into your swan and then bending the elbows and pistoning the arms up and down as you allow the feet to float up behind you in a locust line as you marry your swan with a locust in one little rocking motion. Arms should feel nicely warmed up and burning. You're going to give me 2 more, and then we're going to push back from here into a seated heart opener. I'd like you to modify your seat today with your big toes maybe touching behind you, knees softly splayed out if you can, and actually sitting down so that the heels of your feet are pressing into those little pressure points or tension spots on your bottom. Just sit up nice and tall. Float the arms behind you, bend the elbows, stack the forearms, holding on to the forearms, maybe just resting the weight of your wrists into that little tension spot in the middle or your lower back, and maybe gently digging in with the wrists and just dropping the shoulders away from your ears and holding a slight curve in the spine. Then uninterlace the hands. Try to keep this narrow stance if you can. We're coming into a narrow tadpole. You can, if you like, open up the knees a little bit wider and wiggle off your heels if you like and wrap your feet around your bum. Otherwise, try to keep those heels digging into the bum as you reach for your shins and pull your shins up to the ceiling so that you can really feel those heels digging into those tension spots along your bottom. Homemade massage 101. Let go of your shins. Keep the big toes softly touching as close together along the midline as you can, and think of peeling into a 4-point kneeling position with the toes together and the knees wide. Bump the hips forward, almost coming into a kneeling up dog, and just take a little stretch here into the inner thighs, but keep your belly button softly pulled in and your core braced. Then push back, tucking your toes under, but still keeping the toes together along the midline of the body and the knees wide as you push back into a modified child. Almost softly rounding out through the lower back in a cat-like stretch. Stretching into the arches of the feet where we hold quite a bit of tension. Then relax the bridges of your feet together. Allow the big toes to come together and bump your weight forward into your kneeling up dog. You could give me a fisted line on the mat if you are feeling your wrists. Then tuck your toes under. Toes are still together along the midline of the body with the knees softly splayed out. Think of coming into an almost a childlike stretch and then rounding out your lower back, almost pushing off the hands and getting into that little tension spot in the lower back area. Let's do that one more time. Softly drape the bridges of your feet on the mat. Bump the weight forward. Hands are either open or fisted. And then push back one last time, tucking your toes under but keeping the knees wide. We're going to ease our way from here into our first deep squat line, Malasana. If coming low to the mat is not for you, you can give me a midway squat line on the mat. You're going to step wide to the outside of the right hand, step wide to the outside of the left hand, bringing your hands to prayer and then rocking the body weight side to side while using your elbows to push the inside of the knees. If coming low to the mat is not an option, give me a midway squat. Maybe placing the hands softly on the top of your thighs and just rocking the body weight side to side. Play where you're comfortable. Take the feet as wide or as narrow as you are comfortable with so that you can feel enough of a stretch and an opening happening into the groin. Then place both hands on the mat, step back into a plank line. We're going to set up our first pigeon line on the right. You're going to think knee to nose on the right, and then rotate the foot in, either lining up the heel and the ankle in a straight line or tucking the heel in closer to the perineum. Relax the front leg to the mat, release the back knee shin and foot. Slide the back leg away from you and come up into a high pigeon line. Maybe wiggling around until you're comfortable, using that front foot almost as half a little pyramid to hold your body weight, trying to keep square through the shoulders and the hips. If this feels uncomfortable for you, just reach for a block and maybe place the knife edge portion of the block just underneath your bum crease on the right and just gently lean into the block. Try to draw up along the inner thighs and from the pelvic floor towards the waistline to keep that high pigeon line on the mat. Then float your hands up, almost squeezing the two elbows together along the midline of the body and opening up your hands with lots of space between the fingers. Either stay here or float the hands behind you, reaching with the fingertips for a second or two for the wall behind you. And then bending the elbows, stacking your forearms, resting your forearms in that little tension spot in the back, maybe just gently, surreptitiously using your bones of the wrist to gently massage into those tension spots. Disconnect. Find your way into a soft plank line. Tuck your toes under. Maybe easing into child pose for a second. Big toes together, knees open nice and wide, and just take a little stretch. And then set up your little pigeon line on the left. Find your plank. Think knees to nose on the left. Rotate the foot in. Find the angle on the lead leg that works for you. Relax the lead leg and then the back leg to the floor. Slide, creep, or walk the back leg away using your block underneath your bum if you need that support. Find your high pigeon line. Make sure you're using your inner thighs and your lower abs actively. Draw them up towards your belly button line. Bring the hands off the mat. Squeeze the two elbows together behind your back. Open up your hands at about chest height. Open up the fingers nice and wide. And then if you can, reach the arms long and lengthen behind you. Lots of space between the digits as you try to tap the wall behind you. Then bend the elbows, stack the forearms, rest them on your lower back or your mid back, maybe using your wrist line, your wrist bones to just gently dig into those tension spots along the back. Gently uncouple. From here, you can either ease your way back into child pose or you can find your way once more into your squat line. Finding your way into plank first, then stepping wide on the left and then the right. Wiggling around till you find a comfortable midway spot. Feet as wide or as narrow as you need them. Hands are in prayer in front of your heart and you're using the elbows to push and open up through the groin. Hold that pose, using your elbows to open up gently through the groin. If this feels good, you could maybe extend the hands on the mat in front of you, but don't allow the knees to fall in. Keep pushing the knees open, using those inner thighs in your core, and maybe softly rounding out in a cat-like stretch. From here, we're going to ease our way back into a pigeon line, but we're going to bring it low to the mat this time. Think of stepping back into a plank line. And if you're feeling tight through the hips, just give me a little hip dip side to side from your plank line, just to release the lower back and the pelvic area. Then think knee to nose on the right. Float the leg in, finding the angle that works for you. Relax the lead leg and the back leg to the mat. And this time, once you've wiggled around and squared up through the shoulders and the hips, ease your way down onto the forearms, trying to replicate that Sphinx line that we played with right in the beginning of the class. Think of softly pushing off your forearms, square up through the shoulders and the hips, and try to lengthen as much as you can through the spine. Either staying here or creeping your hands forward and coming into a childlike stretch with your forehead softly connected to the mat and the arms draped long and lengthened alongside your ears. Either stay here or morph into thread the needle from here and we'll thread to both sides. Take a big breath in and on an exhale, thread the right arm underneath the left armpit, almost trying to peek underneath your left armpit and just make that whole right arm that's threaded through, make that shoulder nice and heavy into the mat. Make sure your breathing is not short and choppy, but long and lengthened and relaxed. Ease your way back into your extended childlike line and then thread to the other side, threading your left arm, palm up underneath your left armpit, and feel how differently the stretch feels when you take it to the opposite side. Just relax that whole bottom shoulder into the mat and enjoy the stretch. Ease your way back into your long extended childlike stretch. Find your way back onto the forearms and then the palms. Tuck your back toe under, bring the knee up off the floor. Find your plank line and give me a couple of hip dips just to relax the pelvis and the lower back. Let's set up that low pigeon line on the left. From plank, think knee to nose. Rotate the foot in, finding the angle on the lead and the back leg. Wiggle around, square up through your shoulders and your hips, and then ease your way softly onto the forearms and find your Sphinx line. Don't collapse through the shoulders, so push off the forearms, find that length through the spine with your gaze softly on the mat, maybe just between the two thumb tips. Either stay here or come into full extension, walking, sliding, or creeping the arms out, holding the stretch here for a bit. Arms are long and draped alongside your ears. Take a big breath in and on an exhale, thread the left arm underneath the right armpit and pause here, almost trying to peek underneath your armpit towards the ceiling. Feel for those little tension spots in the hip and the pelvic area. Breathe into them. Ease your way back into your extended childlike arm line before you thread in the opposite direction, threading the right arm underneath the left armpit and peeking underneath that armpit for the ceiling. Ease your way from here back into your extended childlike line. Before finding your way onto the forearms and then the palms. You're going to come into your squat one last time. Tuck your back toe under, bring the knee up off the floor. Maybe finding your plank line first and releasing with that little hip dip through the hips. And then step your legs one at a time, nice and wide to the outside of your hands, taking your foot stance as wide or as narrow as you need to ease your way into deep squat malasana. Maybe wiggling around and then finding that perfect spot where you're just getting the perfect amount of stretch into the inner thighs. You're dropping your bum bones down nice and heavy to the floor. Feel the spine becoming heavy to the mat. And then if you can, keeping the knees open by drawing up along the inner thighs, see if you can float the hands behind you, maybe making a little fist and trying to knuckle the wall behind you. Don't allow the knees to fall in. If this is too much for you, keep your hands in prayer and keep using the elbows to push the knees gently open. So play where you're comfortable. From here, we're going to find our way into a seated frame on the mat. Just gently, maybe lean back onto the hands. Ease your way into a butterfly line. Maybe rocking the weight side to side, playing with those little tension spots in your bottom. And then maybe reaching for the feet, using your whole hand to wrap around both sets of toes and then overlaying that hand with your other hand, flapping the two knees vigorously up and down like a little flittering butterfly. And then pausing by dropping the knees away from you, almost bending softly through the elbows and melting your collarbones and your shoulders away from your ears, and almost trying to hug the feet and the heels in towards your perineum. From here, you're going to tuck into easy sit with the right leg stacking in front of the left. Make sure that you're sitting up nice and tall on the mat with both of your bum bones firmly connected into the mat. So not leaning all of the weight into one bum bone. Just place your fingertips softly on the mat in front of you and then try to creep forward onto your forearms, coming back into that Sphinx line. If dropping this low to the mat is not going to happen for you today, maybe just using a block, playing with the dimensions of your block and finding a comfortable forearm lean-in position. If you've made it onto the forearms, push off your forearms and sink your bum bones back towards your heels. Then take a big breath in. And on an exhale, twist softly to the right. Opposite hand to knee, push that knee away. Just trying to open up a little bit more through the groin area on the right, while placing your opposite hand on the floor behind you for support. Fold forward one more time onto the forearms, softly draping forward, keeping the back as relaxed as you can manage. Keep pushing off the forearms and sinking your hips back as if somebody was pulling your hip line back. Inhale to peel back up and take the twist in the opposite direction. From here, peel back towards the center. We're coming into Hindulasana, rock the baby. You're going to bring your right foot up, hold onto the right foot with your left hand and think of hugging the foot in towards your chest while you use your right palm to push the right knee away. So you're pushing the knee away and you're pulling the foot in. Hold your stretch. We're going to use this setup to come into a half lotus line, Ardha Padmasana. You're going to hug the right heel in as close to the inside of the left hip bone as you can, allowing the bridge of your foot to just rest on the left thigh. Sit up nice and tall. And if you can, ease your way back into your forward fold, trying to make your way onto the forearms. Push off your forearms, make your crown heavy to the floor and bump your hip bones back as if somebody was holding onto your hips and pulling you back. Peel back up and take a little twist to the right. Opposite hand to knee. Push that knee away. Inhale, come back to the center, and on an exhale, softly fold forward, trying to connect your forearms, pushing off the forearms and sinking your bum bones back, fusing your belly button to your spine at the same time. Big breath in, peel up, and on an exhale, twist to the left. Even if that knee is flush to the floor, keep gently pushing it away. Try to ground through both of your bum bones and lengthen through the spine as much as you can. Inhale to come back. We're going to come back into that rock the baby. This time you're going to give me the full expression. Make a little bend in your left elbow and try to insert right foot into left elbow. Run your hands around to either just softly brace your shin and around the knee, or maybe interlace your hands and make a little zip locked basket that you can rock your baby side to side, readjusting if you need to. And then come to stillness along the midline and hug that whole shin and leg in towards your chest. Unbind, come back into your butterfly line, soles of the feet together, rocking your bum side to side, surreptitiously creeping your perineum closer towards your heels as you do so. Come to stillness, find that wrap around your feet. Butterfly flitter the knees up and down. And then come to stillness, keeping that grip on your feet, dropping and melting the shoulders away from your ears, grounding down into the mat through your bum bones, fusing your belly button to the spine and giving me as much length as you can from your tailbone to the nape of your neck. Tuck into easy sit from here, this time leading with the left leg in front of the right. Sit up nice and tall. Creep your fingertips on the mat in front of you and find your way onto the forearms, modifying with a block if you need to. Push off the forearms, sink your bum bones back and find your stretch. Making the crown nice and heavy to the floor. Peel your way back up and take a soft twist to the left. Opposite hand to the inside of the knee. Sitting up nice and tall, pushing that knee softly away, just trying to get a nice bit of additional stretch into the inner thighs and the groin. Come back towards the midline of the body, softly fold forward, making the crown heavy, pushing off the forearms, sinking your hips back and fusing your belly button to your spine. Inhale to peel up. Nice big exhale as you twist to the right. Opposite hand to the inside of the knee, almost using that back arm as a splint to lengthen through the spine. Come back towards the center and lift the right foot up off the mat. The left foot, my bad. Hug the foot in towards your chest. And at the same time, use your left palm to gently ease or coax the left knee away. So a little bit of an oppositional stretch. The knee you're trying to get away and the foot you're trying to get closer. Should give you a nice bit of opening into the hips and the groin. From here, tuck into the half lotus line, bringing that left heel in as close to the inside of the right hip bone as you can. Sitting up nice and tall, make sure that you're not leaning with all of your weight into the one bum bone. You're going to gently fold forward one more time, finding your sphinx-like line on the mat. Making the crown nice and heavy into the mat, bumping your hip bones back. Enjoying your awesome, awesome stretch here. Peel back up, take a big breath in and take a twist to the left. Opposite hand to knee, bum bones equally weighted, spine beautifully long and lengthened, peeking over that back shoulder as if you were trying to look at the back edge of your mat. Inhale to come back to center. Exhale to softly drape forward in your sphinx-like line. Inhale to peel back up. Exhale to twist in the opposite direction, opposite hand to the inside of that knee. Let's set up our rock the baby. Bend the right elbow. Insert left foot into right elbow. Tuck it in as tight as you can, interlacing, maybe just holding onto the knee and the shin, or making your little basket and rocking your baby. And then come to stillness and just think of hugging that whole limb in towards your chest. Ease your way from here back into your butterfly line. If you're on the tall side, surreptitiously creep towards the edge of your mat because we're going to find our way onto the back. So just find your little butterfly rock. Then find your bind around the toes, hug the heels in, drop the shoulders away from your ears. And then allow the feet to peel away from you, round out through your back. You're going to give me a hollow hold. Interlace the hands, invert them and push them away from you while you hollow out through your belly, imprinting your lower back into the mat. Weight off the shoulders, reaching through your toes and pushing through your interlaced hands. You're going to drop into corpse pose or shavasana from here. Relax your whole body. Think limp noodle. Arms are long and lengthened at your side. Palms slightly away from your body, almost at 45. Palms looking up to the ceiling. Rotate your inner thighs out and allow the big toes to peek towards the corner of your mat. Lift your shoulder blades off, wiggle them around and settle the whole weight of your body into the mat. Close your eyes and take your focus in. Start wriggling the toes of both feet and start giving me a little circular release through the ankle joint, giving me at least 3 traces in each direction. Then soften the feet and wiggle limb to limb on the legs, almost as if you were trying to wiggle out through your hip bones towards the tips of your toes, rotating through the leg as you wiggle side to side. Come to stillness and think of taking your ribs out side to side, almost bumping them out as if you wanted to tap the edge of your mat on either side. Come to stillness and focus on your hands. Wiggle your fingers and then give me a little circular release through the wrist. Then soften the arms, drape them on the mat, and get a little wiggle side to side on the shoulder blades. Come to stillness and focus on your head. Drop your head off center to the left and peel right through to drop your head to the right, undulating side to side in a rocking motion, working that little tension spot behind the head as you rock side to side simultaneously, letting go of the tension along your jawline and along your collar line. Come to stillness along the midline of the body and nod your chin towards your chest. Keeping your eyes closed, bend your knees and connect the soles of your feet to the mat. We're going to end off with a little bit of alternate breathing, Anulom Vilom. You're going to keep your left arm at your side, take your right hand, take the middle and index finger and place them on your third eye, that little space between the 2 eyebrows. Use your thumb to close your right nostril, take a big inhale in through your open left nostril, and then use the side of your ring finger to close your left nostril, open your right nostril and exhale. Then inhale through the right nostril, close it with your thumb, open and exhale through the left nostril. Inhale through the left nostril, close it, open and exhale right. Inhale right, close it, open and exhale left. Inhale left, close it, open and exhale right. Once you've got the basic rhythm going, start focusing on the length of your inhale and your exhale. Try to inhale for, let's say, at least 3 counts, and then exhale for 6. If this feels good, try 4 to 8, or 5 to 10, or 6 to 12. But at no stage should you be straining on the inhale or the exhale. We're just going to use inhalation and exhalation today, no retention. So just focusing on the inhale and the exhale. Start bringing a little bit of visualization into your exercise. Each time you inhale through the right nostril, visualize connecting to the male energy system in your body, your Pingala or your sun breath. This builds heat energy in the body. It's invigorating and energizing. Every time you inhale through your left nostril, think of connecting to the feminine energy system in your body, your Ida or your moon energy. This energy system is very restorative and calming in nature. So in its most simplistic terms for this exercise, you're looking to achieve that perfect yin and yang, male and female energy balance in your body. Great little breath exercise to do at any time when you're feeling stressed out. It immediately harmonizes the energy in your body. Make this your last cycle of Anulum Vilum, alternate nostril breathing. When you've taken your full round of inhale and exhale, you're going to release the hands from your head, draping both arms alongside the body, palms up, and just take a couple of long, even recovery breaths, inhaling and exhaling through both nostrils simultaneously. Keeping your focus inward and your eyes gently closed, float the hands to prayer in front of your heart and just end off your practice today by maybe softly tapping your thumb tips to your lips and whispering the words, Namaste. Stay on your back for as long as you need to, and when you're coming out, maybe just gently rocking into a fetal pose before pushing up onto one palm, bringing your head up last and easing your way into a seated frame before you find your way into a standing frame. Thank you so much for coming out and playing with me today. I hope you feel chilled and blissed after that class. Remember to give me a thumbs up, shoot me your comments and your feedback using the display box below, or reach out to me on WhatsApp or email. Have an amazing weekend all, and I shall see you on Monday for playtime on the mat. Till then, keep it light.